Letters fly off a spinning globe from the US, UK, and Australia to spell SGK Studios present an Audio Pizza production.
3, 2, 1, intro, Kayaker.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Audio Pizza. Today we're going to review iOS 18 and all the things we've learned in the last month. Stay tuned. That's next. Hello, Kayaker here, broadcasting from the very cold fall northeast in New England. Yeah, it is cold. It is cold, Garth, who's jumping in right there. It's about 2C, maybe 3C. Well, apparently broadcasting in some tropical paradise in Down Under is Garth. Hello, Garth. How you doing?
Hello, Kayaker. I think we established right before we started recording this that you were trending down and we were trending up with temperatures, but right now, today, we had basically the same day.
Yeah, I guess so.
Anyway, that's about enough weather talk for now. Let's move right on to Sean in England. The beautiful Sean. Hello.
Yeah, we're going to have to work on these intros a bit, aren't we? I've noticed, last time we did the location of where we were on the globe, and now we're doing the weather. I mean, it's a bit, local news, isn't it? We'll work on that. We'll come up with something sexier. Hello. So we're going to talk about iOS 18. Now, this is a Kayaker-inspired episode because both Garth and I have done absolutely no prep whatsoever. So we're just going to talk about how we found it. I mean, we're all running iOS 18, of course. We better be anyway, right?
18.1 even, some of us?
Oh, well, I've got a story about that.
Don't spoil it.
Yes, keep your gunpowder dry.
iOS 18. Kayaker, why do you want to talk about it so much? What's the matter with you?
Well, I really don't want to talk about iOS 18, but I do want to talk about what we can do.
False pretenses. We've been brought here on false
It is.
I'm in the wrong meeting.
Okay, it is iOS 18, but
I've joined the wrong link again. Sorry, go ahead, Kayaker.
Yes. I apologize to the audience. What I'm saying is that iOS 18 and how you optimize it with VoiceOver. What's new in iOS 18 that we can take advantage of, and even some features that have existed before. I just wanted to talk about how we use our phones, how we make them very efficient for us, and how that works, whether you've got the new action button, whether you're customizing VoiceOver gestures, the control center, and all the things that we do, and tips and tricks that we do to make our phone really efficient for those who need VoiceOver.
Yeah, Kayaker, I think it is actually a really good topic. There is so much customization that's available under iOS, under VoiceOver and iOS now. A lot of us, I think, will just leave stuff on default.
Yes.
And that will work great. But once you start digging in and playing with a few things, you can optimize the experience for yourself. So, good plan.
Absolutely.
Kayaker,
There's a lot of
to talk about
institutional knowledge that we've had from using the phone since the early days. And
institutional knowledge?
Yes, institutional knowledge, Garth, because we are an institution. Since the 3GS.
What, Audio Pizza? I'm gonna say it right now. Surely, speech rate up to, let's say, 75 for the average user.
Okay.
That's the first step, isn't it? Speech rate. That's how you make it more responsive and snappy.
I think
Yes.
that's somewhat true, but I must be below average because my preferred choice with Karen Australia is 65%. I know, I'm just a slow individual sometimes.
What? Faker.
No, yeah. 85 to 95, 100 if I don't really care.
If you're not really listening, 100 because
Well,
you don't care.
if you're navigating
that makes no sense.
Okay, so there's different things you can be doing, right? You can be navigating, or you can actually be reading something where you want to take it in thoroughly, or you can just be trying to get a general concept of what's happening. So with navigation,
I was going to say, Garth, how do we adapt our settings for various tasks under iOS? What do we do?
we set up activities. Now, this is not an iOS 18 new thing, and I think what we'll find is a lot of things we talk about this morning for you, Kayaker, are not going to be iOS 18. They're going to be stuff that's been there for ages.
True.
So setting up activities. So when I, go and play Dice World, I have an activity that sets the speech rate to 100. because there's limited information that I'm trying to glean from that app. I'm not trying to understand some complicated précis of some research or something. I'm just, hearing 6 numbers. So 100%, thank you very much. So when I go into that app, this particular activity kicks in and speech rate set to 100. Thank you very much. Honestly, don't have very many activities set up, but that is one of them.
That's exactly what I was going to say. When it comes to activities, I haven't got that many set up, but we should explain a bit more about what you can set in activities. It's not just speech rate, right? There's other voiceover settings that you can set. And what's the difference between activities and per app? Is that the same thing?
I'm not
Now I've
sure.
stumped you, haven't you? Because there is an option at the bottom of the voiceover settings, per app, right?
I haven't actually played with that one, Sean. Pretty much all of the preferences that you have within VoiceOver, you can assign to a particular activity. There's a number of different things you can choose to automatically trigger the change of activity, or you can just go into your rotor and change the activity manually as well. And with each activity, you can have a whole raft of particular VoiceOver settings automatically changed. So it could be the voice, it could be the speech rate, it could be amount of punctuation. And I think this is one area actually where people run into problems where they suddenly have all this additional punctuation being spoken, because I think the only default activity that you get in VoiceOver is the coding one.
Right.
There's an activity called coding. So it's designed for those of us, not me, that is, who actually, code on their device and so need to know precisely what all the punctuation is. And some people find suddenly their device is telling them all this punctuation that they really don't want to know. The time is no longer, 1:30 p.m. It's now 1:30 p.m.
Yes, because they've accidentally triggered the coding activity.
Right. Yeah.
Which by default, as you say, has all the verbosity.
Verbosity.
It's really powerful, that. And it's one of those things you don't really get into. The only thing I don't understand about activities is how it classes. When am I coding? And is it simply you set that manually yourself, as you mentioned, through the rotor or other ways to set the activity, or can it be done automatically? When I open this app, and
yes,
maybe that is the difference.
Per app.
Yes, but that's a separate setting, right? So
that's what I'm not clear on. So within the activities interface, you can say, I want this activity to be automatically triggered when I go to X number of apps, to this app. That's how I've got my one for playing Dice World set up. Yes. When I open Dice World, it will automatically go into that activity.
And I'm not trying to trip you up here, Garth, about the per app and the activity. The point I want to get across is that I am actually unsure. There's so many different customizations there.
Yes.
I don't know what the difference is. And it's something, sometimes it's quite good just to spend an hour just digging through those settings and testing them out, because they can make a huge difference.
Yeah. And that's what I said. I haven't played with the per app stuff either. I'm not sure how it... Is it just another way of assigning activities? I don't know. I think maybe it is.
Yeah, it could be.
I think you can trigger an activity by an app, but that's not the same thing. Like, I think you can have multiple activities. For Safari, I think, is the best example, right? You use Safari in lots of different cases. If you're shopping for tech products, you might want to have the description a little more slower so you can hear all the specs. So I think you can... I'm pretty sure you can have multiple apps with different settings in the activities, but on the per app sort of trumps it all. So I think that's the distinction between the activities and the apps. But again, the bottom line is you have control over what tasks you're doing, and you can adjust your voiceover settings appropriately. So depending on what you're doing, go into settings and play around with it. Customize your phone. If you feel the need that you are missing information because your voiceover is going too fast at some point, set up an activity that's sort of the more in-depth learning mode, and see if you can trigger it in the right spots, because you'll be able to do it.
And I guess, you sort of put the cart before the horse in one aspect, in terms of we're talking about triggering different things that you can customize. Let's talk about some of the things you can actually customize as well. Any iOS 18 specific stuff?
I think the control center controls customization is something that is new in 18, right? That's a whole new piece of tech. Feature, that's the word I'm looking for. It's a new feature in 18. So if you go into the control center, you now have the option of editing it. You can add a lot of new actions and widgets to the control center, and different applications will have the option of exposing certain shortcuts into the control center. So depending on what apps you have, you can add app-specific actions into your control center now. The one that I generally add to the control center is the remote for the Apple TV and the screen recording functionality. I tend to add those two controls, which are sort of the stock Apple ones there. And you could add those in prior versions as well, but now you can kind of move them around and put them where you want and stuff like that. It's similar to sort of editing the home screen a little bit.
It scares me.
Yeah.
So you can look, and I know what you mean, Sean. I've had a bit of a play with it, and I've made a complete and utter mess of the whole thing.
Yes, me too.
I can tell you one particular app that does, and that's ChatGPT.
Yes, that's the one. Yep.
There's a control, and we'll use that term, that you can add to Control Center to take you straight into voice chat mode with ChatGPT. And I've actually, because it's a control that you can add to the Control Center, that also means it's exposed to the action button. If you have a 15 or any of the phones since then that have the action button. So currently there's a customization for you. The action button on my 15 Pro takes me straight into ChatGPT voice mode.
It's amazing. By the way, I use that all the time. It's used more than my Siri button, especially now I don't pay for ChatGPT. And every now and again, it'll give me the conversational new mode. And that just blows me away. Have you played with that? It's amazing.
Conversational new mode? What do you mean? No, I'm not sure.
Yeah, of course, that's not the proper technical term for it, but where you can interrupt it. And it's the new 4.0.
Yes.
Yeah, real-time conversation model.
So good.
It is so good. It is absolutely fantastic, and I can't wait to get to that like as the default. But the action button again. It seems like nothing because you could, and we'll get to this later. You could assign it to a gesture. A lot of these, shortcuts or anything, you can assign it to pretty much anything. Again, one of the joys of customizing voiceover. Yes. But there is something about that action button just being there that I use it all the time. It's absolutely fantastic. And before we go any further, let me just say this because I did just check. Per app, I was wrong. It's not under voiceover. It's under the main accessibility settings. So you can set various accessibility settings per app, not just voiceover, which is for activities.
Gotcha.
So that would be the difference. If you just want it to be smart,
real-time follow-up. Go you.
There you go. Yeah, well, I got it wrong, so I thought I better correct myself before we go on.
I'm very impressed. Yeah, okay, there you go. Thank you. That's cool. That makes total sense. Awesome.
But again, just goes to show there's so many options in there. I mean, I feel like I'm fairly competent on it, but still there's so many things on there you think, what does that do? I'll come back to that and look that up later on, and you just don't.
I think on a recent episode I had a bit of a brief whinge about being on the beta and not being able to get scenes to work. So what I mean by scenes is, now under iOS 18 we have the
detection mode.
That's it, Sean. Yeah, very simple. Detection mode. And I love having it in the rotor, right? I just rotor once left and there it is.
And
away.
Remind me what it's called, the rotor. Is it live recognition? Is that the right phrase?
Live recognition, scenes off.
Live recognition.
There you go.
Scenes off. So I was like, scenes just doesn't work. I do not get any feedback for scenes.
I remember. Yes, you were moaning and bitching about it.
Moaning and bitching about it. That's it. That's what I do. I moan and bitch. So I dug through settings, accessibility settings. I found where you could enable what particular versions of that, whether it's text or whatever, show up in that list.
So you turned off everything and you had nothing you were looking for on your scene? Is that what you were telling us?
No.
Okay.
No, that's not what I'm telling you.
Okay.
So couldn't find anything there. So you can sort of change whether you have text, doors, people, furniture, and scenes, and point.
Point and speak, yes.
Yeah, where it looks at your finger and goes, okay, this is the control that's near your finger. Kind of cool.
Yeah. Running your finger over buttons on your microwave, for example,
Yes.
should read
Yeah.
out what your fingers. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can sort of customize within the voiceover settings. You can customize which of those show up in that list. That's sort of all you can do there. I had to dig through Zoom, through the Zoom settings, because it's sort of magnifier. It actually was part of Zoom rather than voiceover initially. Nothing there.
Yeah, I'm coming up blank. I don't know where you would have gone for this. Go on.
Eventually, well, next I looked in settings, like the iOS settings app, and in there you go into apps, and in there you go into magnifier, and there's more settings for magnifier there, right? Still not what I'm looking for. If you actually find on your home screen, wherever you've gone and put it, the magnifier app, because there is an actual magnifier app that can show up on your home screen, and in there you go into settings, you can find that for each of those things, whether it be text or furniture or people or doors, you can configure what information it gives you, how much it gives you.
Wow. Okay, sorry. I must have tuned out for a second. Where were those settings again?
So on your home screen, so, somewhere wherever it is, in your Apple folder, if you're as organized as some people are, you'll find a magnifier app. In the magnifier app, there's a settings button. In the settings button, there's a detection button. In the detection button, you can find that for each of those things, you can customize it, whether it gives you labels or spoken feedback. I don't know what labels are. Don't ask me. So with the door type stuff and the things that are distance-based, the reason that, Sean, you like to hold on to your LiDAR, and so do I, you can customize how far away the thing needs to be before it changes pitch. So, with LiDAR, it'll give you this beeping thing, a door is so many meters away or feet away. You can tell it, you can customize whether it tells you feet or meters, for example, how many feet or meters away it is before it changes pitch. My scenes was turned speech feedback was turned off. So, of course, I was not getting any bloody speech feedback for scenes because that setting somehow
user
by
error.
default. Yep, absolutely. Well, I don't know if it was user error or just some bizarre default because I had never found it before. It's like
that. Let's be honest, that is strange though, right? You would expect to go into your accessibility settings, see something on live recognition and be able to change everything in there. And,
exactly.
I have found this a few times is, the settings in there? I need to go. Yeah,
and there's more settings for the same thing somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is a little bit strange. But yeah, cool. So you found it and...
turned it on and it now works.
And now you say it works.
It works. So I had a little play with it downstairs in a big lounge room where there's couches and a piano and a bookshelf and various things. Strangely enough, I don't know why, but it kept trying to tell me there was a person lying on the floor.
Oh, yeah, it can be quite terrifying using scenes. Yes, I've had human face quite a few times, and also toilet quite a few times.
Okay, I've never had it. No matter where I looked, whether it was the couch or the other couch in the other corner or the bookshelf, it kept finding people lying on a bed. I'm thinking, okay. Look, I like lying in bed. I've got no problem with it, but pretty sure that in my lounge room right now, when I'm the only one here, there's no one lying in a bed, right? So
there's
trust
probably a
the
wild
tech.
party
That's
down
what I
under. Yeah.
at least it actually spoke to me now, though, once I found the settings. Now, one of the other interesting settings I found in there was under furniture, whether or not it tells you if there's a person in the couch. That's an option where you can turn it on or off. Who knows what the settings are by default because they seem pretty weird to me.
Well, I've never played with the settings, and by default, mine tells me unoccupied or whatever the term it uses.
How cool is that, though?
It is. It's amazing. I didn't even know that was there until you told me last time. So, fantastic. I want to say, though, right, before we go on to the other features, scene. Do you think that's useful? I mean, it's cool, but when do you think you're going to use it? I think, well, maybe I'm in someone's... I don't know what room I'm in someone's house or some location. and it's going to tell me there's a microwave and a cooker and, I'm in the kitchen. But are you ever going to use it like that?
No.
My use case might be, and I haven't tried it, but walking through a shopping centre.
Yes.
It'll give you some context of what stuff is around
When you just use text, real-time text detection.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
You'd have the same thing you'd have that turned on as well, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not
okay.
real sure. I think it's not as useful as text or the furniture or doors or people.
Yeah.
All of those have much more obvious use cases to me, yeah. Totally, Sean.
I'm going to jump on my scene AI soapbox for a second. And perfect example of a feature that was designed by a sighted person thinking that would be useful for a blind individual. It all goes back to too much information. When a sighted person walks in a room, they just sort of take in everything sort of automatically. But if they have a specific task, they're going to be focused on something. And the problem with the scene detection in AIs right now is that it doesn't adapt to the context that you're in. So you can't just say, okay, I'm going into a scene, but I'm only interested in free seats in this area, or I'm only looking for doors in this area. It's like there's so much context. So I get overwhelmed with the information that just spews information that I'm not interested in scene detection. So no.
What if you were sat in a restaurant or you were sitting, you were somewhere where there is actual scenery to look at? I think it could be kind of nice. Even driving along, I have used that before. It was scenes and it was just, if you've opened up the camera app, it would give you that same kind of information just by pointing the camera somewhere. And I have used that driving along in a car, just pointing out the window, just getting an idea of what the hell I'm passing.
Yeah.
Like it's just, it's kind of nice to get that information. As you say, at times it can be completely overwhelming.
Right.
If you're trying to use it for navigation, probably pointless. But just as hey, I'm interested in what's going on around me, I think it's a nice option to have.
The capability is fantastic. It gives you a lot of information, but the next step that they need to do to make it useful, in my humble opinion, is to give us the option to categorize certain things. So we can put a list of objects that we're interested in the scene at any given moment. So if we're in a hotel, it could be like elevators, stairs, desks, things like that. If we're in a bathroom, sink, toilet, paper towels, soap, toothbrush, those types of things. If we're in a restaurant, it might be tables, chairs, things like that. I'd love to be able to customize the things that it told us and be able to group those in, whatever context I'm in. That's the next
As a
step
guide
for
dog
me.
handler, I tell you what, all I want
Shit.
is, well,
Where's
no,
the poo?
a rubbish bin. Where's the rubbish bin?
Well, by rubbish bin.
So my dog has toileted at a point where I wish he hadn't, but that's okay. I've picked it up and I've got a bag of poo with me now, and I'm walking along the street, and I know there's going to be rubbish bins along here somewhere, and quite often if I ask him to find a bin, he will. Quite often he won't. If I could just have something looking at my video feed and telling me when I passed a rubbish bin, I would be very happy.
So you're just looking for object detection where you could specify the object?
Correct. And I know there are apps that sort of do that, but whenever I've played them with them, I haven't really got the results I've wanted.
Well, when you're talking something like a bin or a trash can for our,
for our American
global
friends.
audience, yes. When you're looking for a bin, a poop bin, there's so many different shapes, varieties, right?
Exactly.
If it's got a top on it and it goes in through the side, or it's just open basket or whatever it may be, that it's really difficult. But yeah, it's interesting though. I find that because this has been around for a while, the live recognition, but the move into the rotor has made such a big difference to the amount of time that I actually use it. It just makes it more functional. And there's no difference in what it actually does. It's just how easy it is to access it. And also, if you do a 4-finger triple tap, that also brings up the detection mode. And that seems like a really easy gesture, just as quick as using the rotor. But for some reason, it just
the rotor
feels
makes
a
the
little
difference.
It does, yeah. So just go through a rotor, and also the ability to turn off or on any of those features. Okay, so I want people detection, but I also want text detection. So, swipe up and down through the live recognition once you've selected it in your rotor, and just double tap to turn it on or off. And you can have them all going concurrently, and it works really well.
Yeah. How are you guys finding the text?
Now, I don't know if this is just force of habit. My default is just open seeing AI.
Yeah, me too. Short text.
And I find the short text responsiveness in Seeing AI, absolutely fantastic.
It's
And
much
I find
better.
it
Yeah.
I find it a lot faster than using. I mean, my usual use case is grabbing a ready meal or something out of the fridge and just switching between, just holding the phone over one package. And then as soon as I know what that is. As soon as it says one word, I get that. And then moving to the next one. And the amount of time it takes to sort of recognize the new thing and then read it out to you. With Seeing AI, it's almost immediate. It's amazing. Because I did try it in the live recognition using the text feature, and it was just a little bit sluggish. It was still reading text from the first thing I held in front of it, but I already had moved it along. So
Didn't sort of interrupt itself.
It didn't, no, exactly. And it's a real fine line to hit, because sometimes it's like I got to hold my phone so still if I'm trying to read something when I want it to carry on. Otherwise, I moved it a bit. Oh, it's going to refresh and start reading from the top again.
That's exactly the thing that they've got to get right, isn't it? That at what point do I refresh what I'm looking at? Is that an intentional move that you've changed to another subject? Or is it just that you've wobbled your hand a bit? It's sort of,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So,
and,
I mean, I can understand it's difficult.
Has got it. Whereas, the text
or
one hasn't
but
quite
has
yet.
it, or is it just a case that we've been using it because it was one of the first ones out there? Is it just a case that we've become accustomed to? Oh, this is how it should be.
Yeah. Well, I think it is better in that as you described a moment ago, you'll hold a different meal there, but it's still telling you text from the previous meal with the text feature. Whereas with Seeing AI, it will have updated to the new one.
Yeah.
So I think, they've got it a little bit more right.
So speaking of customizing the rotor, it seems like a good segue to talk about the different ways we have to control our voiceover settings. We've got the rotor, which we can add things to, but a lesser known feature, I think, is the voiceover quick settings. And there's some overlap between those two things. And I find that I can reduce the amount of items in the rotor. For example, language, or sometimes like speaking, or things that I might not adjust that often. I can move over to voiceover settings and sort of clean up my rotor a bit to make things a little more efficient. Do you guys do any of that yourselves?
Look, I like the idea, but I haven't actually done it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm exactly the same. I totally get what you're saying, and quick settings is absolutely fantastic, and not enough people know about it. And I'm saying that, and I barely use it.
Yeah.
But no, you are absolutely right. It could clean up your rotor. There's nothing worse than trying to find that thing in your rotor and go and swiping through it.
Spin, 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 spin.
Yeah, it's not a perfect overlap, but there are a lot of functions in the rotor that I use less often than I move over to the voiceover settings. It's usually the language stuff. Sometimes I'm changing languages and some of the volume stuff. Things that are pretty much, things that you don't change that often. I put into the secondary. So how do we
get to the quick settings?
Oh, how do you get to the quick settings? Garth, what's the gesture to get to quick settings?
Look, I think on mine, it's not what it should be.
Oh, you change it.
Customize my...
Isn't it a 2-finger triple tap? Let's try that out.
No,
Hang on.
For me, that's paste.
Well, someone's been customizing.
Yes,
By
we'll get to
default,
that.
it's a 2-finger quadruple tap. Wow. Quick settings is basically exactly what it says on the tin. It's just a list of voiceover settings in an easy to access list, and just toggle on and off without having to go to settings, accessibility, voiceover. And the amount of settings in there, there's loads, and including Braille settings, by the way.
Right.
Well, the thing is, the amount of settings in there is also customizable. So if you do go to settings, accessibility, voiceover, blah, 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 you can, sort of optionally include or not various settings. So the main things you want to have in quick settings, because they're your quick settings, you can, customize, which is kind of cool as well.
Exactly.
Another thing we can customize.
Yes.
A lot of things you can customize. So I think between the customizing the voiceover rotor and customize quick settings, you can tune your voiceover experience to be very efficient for you. So the rotor has a lot of things that you use all the time, and then the quick settings has the things that you use less frequently, and it's just a way to make your life more efficient as a VO user.
We've been talking about the rotor. Why is it that so many people have a problem performing the rotor gesture, do you think?
I do it a little bit differently. I don't do what they tell you to do. I don't sort of pinch and sort of try to rotate my things like a dial. I actually take two fingers and move them in opposite directions.
What?
I usually use my two thumbs, and I put the pads of the thumbs sort of right on top of each other, and then I move them in opposite directions. It just works. Try it.
It's like you're doing a walking gesture with two fingers on your screen, but you're sliding.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Yeah.
No, I put my pointer and middle finger on the screen and spin. We all have different ways of doing it.
Yeah.
I do exactly the same. I just imagine like there's a physical dial, volume dial on the screen, and turn it with my, well, whatever, like with a pinching.
Well, I think if I was imagining it was a physical dial, I'd use my thumb and pointer, but I tend to use my pointer and middle finger. Yeah.
Yeah.
It can take some practice, but it is definitely worth doing. It can speed up so many things, and particularly when you're trying to jump through headings or buttons or something on a website.
Yeah.
Being able to quickly, I want to go to the next form field, for example. You really need to get to grips with the rotor.
Well, do you? So for two use cases you said just there are two of my most favorite voiceover customizations. And when I pick up my iPad where I haven't done these settings, and I wish they would just sync with iCloud like everything else seems to sync.
It drives you crazy when you don't have them on.
It drives me crazy when I pick up someone else's iPhone and their settings are not customized. So headings and controls. So whether it be text fields, buttons, etc., etc., etc. So you can assign next heading, previous heading to a gesture. For me, I've used 4-finger swipe up and down, and for 2-finger swipe left and right, I've put next and previous control. So in Safari, rather than flick to try and find the text field where you've got to put your password in, a 2-finger swipe left or right, it'll take you to the next button or text field or element like that kind of control rather than all the other elements. Such a time saver on a busy website.
Okay, so this is customizing gestures, correct? So this is probably one of the most powerful things that you can do with VoiceOver. I think people are probably less familiar with. You can override the gestures and customize them for yourself. And there are some gestures out there that really aren't being used or sort of are not very functional or redundant. The ones that I can think of that tend to be available for overriding are the 2-finger gestures, a lot of 2-finger swipe up, 2-finger left, 2-finger right. What else do you guys use to override?
I haven't overwritten the 2-finger swipe up, to be honest.
Okay.
That one's still set to
Yeah, I quite like that one myself.
But you could be right, yeah. Speak from beginning. Probably don't need that one.
No, see, I speak,
down.
because I can get to the point I want and do a 2-finger down. So I don't need read from top of screen. I will just go to the top of the screen and do that. So that's why I override that one.
So yeah, I can see that I could probably reassign that if I needed to. But yeah, 2-finger swipe left and right, definitely. 4-finger swipe up and down are currently, I don't think by default used for anything. So they're available. I think they're the main ones that are actually not used currently. I'm not sure if there are any others.
No, they are a little bit limited to what spare gestures you've got. But again, if there's a gesture that you don't use, for example, the VoiceOver help, I think it's a 4-finger quadruple tap as well, or something like that. I don't need VoiceOver practice, so I don't use that. So you could sometimes I'll assign that to a shortcut. For example, you could assign it to Open Chat GPT voice conversation mode, or anything really. So yeah, you are a little bit limited, but I think you're absolutely right, Garth. By the way, when I pick up Sarah's iPhone and quickly try to jump through headings, and it's I've got to go to the
oh my god, got to go to the freaking rotor.
I'm so hard done by, you know.
Yes.
But it's exactly the point that we're talking about in this episode, is that it makes a difference, and it does make it more responsive. It does.
Makes it easier to do stuff.
Yeah, exactly right. And we should say, actually, where you actually can customize the gestures.
So if you go into
more.
settings, accessibility, VoiceOver.
Commands.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sean. You're the font of knowledge, font of all knowledge.
Could be wrong.
Yeah,
you might want to double check.
No, that is correct. I remember I looked at it today. The other one that I want to mention, actually, that I find immensely helpful is paste.
Yes.
So we've got is it a oh God, you've got to actually, it's one of these things where you have to do it it's like
it's muscle
phone
memory
numbers,
otherwise.
Phone numbers where in the old days where we used to type them in, I don't know the number, but I can type the pattern in,
I still do that with card numbers. I'm picturing typing it into a telephone.
Picture typing them in,
yeah.
So 3-finger quadruple copies the last thing VoiceOver said to your clipboard. That one in itself, I come across people every now and then that don't know that that's there. Amazing. So useful.
Yes.
Pair it with a paste gesture, which I've got on, and this I had to change something else. 2-finger triple tap will paste that into a text field. So go to the text, so copy it somewhere, paste it somewhere else. I don't know. That's the one that really gets me when it's not there. So annoying when I can't just paste it easily like that, and I have to do the rotor to edit and swipe down to paste.
I'm totally with you. But this brings up another frustration I have sometimes. Like, let me try and think of an example. I think the Amazon app, even better, the App Store. I want to jump through the graphics or, I don't know, a button. But those options aren't available in the rotor at that point. It doesn't see it as a web content.
So it doesn't give you all the options in the rotor.
You can only do headings, line, the standard. But if you go to a website, you've got forms, buttons, links, everything else. So sometimes it's like I want to use those options, just make them available. And I think I've come across that copy and paste thing in the keypad, in the dial pad of the phone app. So I've copied the phone number of something using that method you just said about, copy the last VoiceOver thing to clipboard. There's no paste option in the text field of the dial pad.
No, that text field is a special one, I think, because it's a phone text field. There's something unusual about it. It's not a standard text field. So
I know, but how often do you want to paste a telephone number into the dial pad to ring it?
Well, usually you just double tap
never.
on the...
I just double tap it where I found it. Rather than copying it from there and taking it to the phone, I just double tap it where it is.
Exactly right. Yes, you can double tap on things. I've come across many websites where that doesn't work. It doesn't recognize it as a number. So you could double tap on the telephone number and it say call, and it will say the number.
Right.
And then you tap on that, and it will actually dial it. But I've come across many a number on websites where it won't do that because it doesn't recognize it as a number. No idea why, if it's to do with formatting or whatever it may be. But
that's where you maybe need to take it into like another app and edit it. That really annoys me.
Yes.
And they put spaces in things that don't really need spaces.
Yes,
you have to
that's right.
go and edit them somewhere, and my whole nice copy and paste thing gets ruined by me having to edit it in the middle.
But I'm wondering, in that situation, would your assigning gestures to copy and paste, would that work in that text field where it's not available natively? App. Yeah.
Let's have a look. Well, hang on. Let's go to
Home messages.
Somewhere where I can get a phone number.
614123045 plus 61412304597. Like phone switcher. Phone active. Missed button 22. Missed button tab bar favorites selected contact keypad tab 4 of 5 selected. Phone number text field. Phone number text paste menu item.
You've got a paste menu item.
Phone number text field. Phone number plus 614123045.
Yeah, it worked.
Hey. Okay, so what did you do there? Did you do the context menu?
I did my 3-finger my 2-finger triple tap, which is what I have assigned to paste.
That's interesting. Okay,
I got that paste option first by double tapping on the text field, and it automatically came up with that paste option. I sort of tried to ignore that.
I'm wondering if that's a new feature because I could never paste in there before. But then again, I always tried the rotor.
Yeah,
to see if
I
the
will
edit
say,
menu was
Sean,
in
that
the
I've
rotor.
experienced the same thing in various cases, that the rotor edit options aren't there, but this new sort of contextual menu, when you tap in the text field, offers you the option to paste right then and there if you have something on the clipboard.
That little contextual menu that comes up, that's been there longer than anything else. It's like the original. Yeah, it's like the original version of it.
It is, yeah.
Right back from iOS, at least 4.3.
And you can double tap and hold as well to bring up that context menu.
To bring it up, yeah, that's been there right from the start.
Oh, we're all learning together.
We are.
Yeah.
An Audio Pizza production.
going back to the commands, it's not only touch gestures that you can modify as well.
Ah, yes.
You can also modify keyboards. So
If you use a Bluetooth keyboard or something, yep.
Yeah, Bluetooth keyboards, and also Braille as well. So if you're using a Braille display or a Braille input, you can customize commands on there. And also handwriting, I believe. I'm racking my brain. So yeah, there's quite a few options. It's definitely worth a look.
Quick one with Braille. I'm not sure if either of you use BSI very much at all, but I love it. I find it such an efficient way of doing text entry. Even though I'm a really slow Braille reader, I can type it in quite well. So the new way of getting into BSI mode, if you don't, well, firstly, you can have it set that whenever you go into a text field, it automatically takes you into BSI. I haven't done that. I want to leave it bring me up the keyboard, and if I want to go into BSI, I will choose to, and I'll use the gesture. And so they've got this new gesture, which you can assign within, and for you guys who don't use BSI, maybe you want to reassign these. There's a new physical gesture that you can use, which is a 2-finger single tap, 2-finger double tap, or a 2-finger triple tap at the opposite edges of the screen. Basically, it's by putting one finger at the top of the screen and one finger at the bottom of the screen and doing a single, double, or triple tap, and it will recognize that as a separate gesture to your normal 2-finger tap, double tap, or triple tap.
Okay, and this is all one finger tappage.
2 fingers.
One finger at each end
of the phone.
Yes, so not 2-finger tapping at both ends. Yes.
No. So one finger at the top, one finger at the bottom. If you're going into BSI mode, you're going to put your phone into landscape and you're going to have one hand at each end of the phone, and it's going to be really natural to go into BSI. And so there's 3 more gestures that, for you guys that don't use BSI, are available for reassigning. Firstly, by default, 2 fingers far apart, double tap, will put you into BSI, and 2-finger far apart triple tap will put you into BSI control mode.
Yes.
Which we won't go into here. It's not really the episode for that. But there is a third option, which is a 2-finger single tap, which is not used at all. So my first customization was to move the normal BSI to 1 and the control mode to 2. So why do a double tap or a triple tap when I can do a single tap or a double tap? Okay.
Yeah.
Really, and as again, you could use them for other things if you wanted to.
Yeah. Perfect. If you're not a Braille user, they're spare.
Yeah.
I'll just tell you what my favorite gesture that I've overridden, and that's the, I think it's the 3-finger single tap, which
is sort of describe item.
That's what I set it for, describe item. I think originally it was like top of screen, middle of screen, bottom of screen.
It gives you the item summary.
I changed that to image description, so I can get an image description of whatever I'm on. So that's
okay.
Whenever I'm on an image, it's just a quick way of getting a quick description of the image, and I found that very useful for, button control. Like if you're on a button, it just says button. That 3-finger single tap can actually describe the button. It might say play button or something like that, or green arrow pointing right or something like that.
Okay, so that's probably another setting somewhere as well, that it'll do that by default, so that a button that it can tell is a play button, rather than having to query it, it should just be telling you that information anyway.
There is an option sometimes where it says this might be a play button or something like that. I think that's in
possibly play button.
Yeah, possibly right. Possibly play button.
Well,
yeah.
What we're getting into here is the voiceover recognition, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is separate from the detection mode, the live recognition in the rotor. This is separate. This is using
separate thing again.
What should we call it? AI, machine learning. We'll say AI. It's using AI to try and describe various things. So again, this is available in the settings, accessibility, voiceover. And I believe it's still called voiceover recognition in there. And there's various options you can use. So let's get into that a little bit. You got image description.
Text.
Text as well. Yeah, so it'll read out any text it sees in any images.
In an image. Yeah. So that's an optional thing you can have on with the image description or not.
The main one, the one that I got so excited about when this was first released, and this isn't an iOS 18, this has been around for a while now, was screen recognition.
Yeah.
Now, the big promise of this was, all those apps which are just button, 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 or have some weird navigation inaccessibility issues, it could figure it out. But I'll be honest with you, I mean, it doesn't work at all.
No.
Well, I shouldn't say at all. It doesn't work very well for me. But there are occasions. Now, if I open up an app and it's not accessible, I will always try that. Go to screen recognition. I have it in the rotor. I've added it to the rotor. And turn it on
for that
and
app.
try it out. Because exactly what you said, and it could be a combination of all the things we've mentioned, image description and text. It will try and figure out if that button is a play button, is whatever. I find it a lot in, for settings, for example. If I just use without screen recognition, it'll just say button. But with screen recognition, it may say a gear symbol or a cog or 3 lines, like a burger menu.
I use it in an app called Ember, which is the smart
The smart coffee
cup thing. Yep. So that app there, there's certain controls in there that are not accessible. VoiceOver will just see all of the options as one element, but if you put it on screen recognition mode or whatever it's called, you can choose the particular element you want.
I haven't tried it in a while, but in the, I'll say, Lady A app for the smart speaker,
Okay, yes.
if you go into the voices, for example, and try and choose a different voice, it will say English. Okay, swipe on English. Swipe on English. If you turn on screen recognition, English Canadian, English US, English. It will give you that extra text which is visually underneath where it says English.
That hasn't been exposed to VoiceOver.
It hasn't been exposed for whatever reason to VoiceOver. So it is useful and it's good to know it's there. And as I say, any app that's inaccessible, the first thing I do is turn on screen recognition, try it out. Now, a lot of the times it's not helpful in apps beyond saving, but it's just good to have there as well because sometimes it can,
I think
help you out.
everyone needs to know that it's there because often the number one reason why an app suddenly becomes inaccessible is that you accidentally turn on screen recognition and you don't notice it. Have you ever had that happen to you where it's like,
Yes.
this app,
Yes.
It's like so,
Clicky.
Yeah, it's like, what?
Yeah.
That suddenly doesn't work properly.
The YouTube app is a great example of that.
Okay.
It's just, where am I? What's it saying?
and then you realize, oh, screen recognition must be on this app, and you actually have to turn it off. So that's the first go-to question I ask people if they say this app used to work and it's not working right now. It's like, well, double check that screen recognition didn't accidentally come on.
Isn't on for that app.
Which boggles my mind because I think if an app is accessible, why would screen recognition turning on break it?
Yeah.
I just don't understand. So the best new app in iOS 18 for me is the new Passwords app. And if you're not using it, you should. I mean, I'm a big fan of security and I've been a fan of Bitwarden and 1Password. But now that Apple has integrated their own password management app into it, you should be using it and it works great. Keep tracks of your passwords on websites. It'll do autofill with biometric security. Look into it, open it, get your passwords in there, and make your life more secure and easier. And it'll sync across all your devices that are tied to your Apple ID. So that's even more reason to use it.
Oh, absolutely love the Passwords app. Now, there's a couple of little things. Firstly, as Kaika, you said, syncs across all your devices. If you have a Windows device, you can log into iCloud there and have the Passwords app there as well. So it's not isolated completely to Apple products. You can use it on Windows as well. Secondly, memory lane. You can look at your Wi-Fi passwords and look at all the Wi-Fi. Like I had a look through there, and there's stuff I joined in when I was in Europe in 2019, and like all these
What?
SSIDs, all the old Wi-Fi stuff.
Have you still got mine in there?
Oh, I bet it's in here. I could go and find it right now and tell you what your Wi-Fi password is.
You better delete that right now, sir. That's a breach of my security.
All of that stuff is in there. It's kind of cool. Another good feature in there is it will tell you if the password that you have assigned for a particular thing is something that's showing up in a data breach. If you've got the same password on multiple sites, it will tell you that. You get a few false positives for that. I've got quite a few false positives where you've got the same password on multiple sites, but it's not recognizing that these are just multiple URLs for the same site.
Same place,
You know,
yeah.
Yeah, it's the same place. It's, so you do get a few false positives. But again, really handy to have that notification that, hey, maybe you should look at changing this password.
Yeah. And I always tap on, maybe later.
Yeah. Now, another nice feature in the Passwords app is you can share your passwords and set up groups. So, for example, I have a group set up with my 2 children to share the Netflix password. So rather than my old days of having a really simple, what's the minimum thing Netflix will allow me to use for my password?
Yes, password 123. Yes.
Password 123, so that I can easily tell the kids what the password is for Netflix, for the Netflix account that we all share. Even if Netflix are trying to cut down on that sort of stuff. Too bad, so sad. You can have a proper 20-digit, nice, long, complicated password and set up a group within the Passwords app and move it from your passwords to your shared passwords. I have one shared with Geordie, for example, with a VPN service that allows us to use that VPN service on multiple devices. Now, this brings up a problem that I ran into. I knew that my son was running the latest iOS. Whenever I tried to add him to the group that I set up for the kids to share the Netflix password with him, it would say, sorry, this person cannot join this group. And I couldn't work out why, because I knew he had the most recent. I think they only actually have to be on iOS 17 to be able to join. He hadn't actually ever opened the Passwords app, so iOS didn't really know that he had the Passwords app and wouldn't let him join. So that was the trick that I found out, and I only found that out when I tried to share the password with Geordie, and she had the same issue. I knew she was on 18, but it wouldn't let me share it to her. All she had to do was open the Password app for the first time, and then it would let me share.
Because usually you get those little screens telling you what's new in this, and you got to click on the Continue app to actually open the app up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you haven't done that for the first time, you're not going to be able to share with somebody. But a really useful feature, I think, for that sort of situation. Yeah, you don't want to share your passwords with other people, but for certain specific instances, really convenient way to be able to share a really properly secure password. They don't have to know what the password is even. They just do the normal Face ID and
can they look at it? Yeah.
They can look at it, but they don't have to care what it was. They can just use the Face ID to fill the password without ever actually worrying too much about it.
And once you start using 20-character randomly generated passwords, you can't remember it anyways.
Yeah. You don't want to have to be trying to type those things in.
And the Netflix example is a great example.
So since I don't associate with human beings, I was wondering, Garth, do you have to be in the family group or can you add anyone with an Apple ID?
I think you can add anyone. I'm not 100% sure about that. I think the only requirement is that person needs to be already in your contacts.
Gotcha.
Can I just say as well, this is real basics when it comes to passwords, but I see this so often as well. When you're in a login screen and you got the on-screen keyboard there, just tap around above the letter P, or there's a little toolbar that appears.
Slide up there, yep.
Yeah, slide up there and you will find autofill or use, sometimes it changes, open passwords or use autofill. It's just so useful, but for all the reasons we've already mentioned, but a lot of people don't even know it's there. When you're in a user, enter your username, enter your email, or enter the password. That password option will be there, usually above the letter P in the top right corner of the keyboard, autofill. Double tap on that, it will do a Face ID, and then it will either give you a list of options or just autofill it for you.
If iOS is pretty sure about which password it is, it won't even give you the keyboard most of the time. It'll just have a little thing down the bottom of the screen that will say, fill with, this email address sort of thing.
That's right.
It doesn't even bring up the keyboard half the time now. So really, really convenient. Oh, and that brings me to one last feature that I'm going to mention, which again is not iOS 18, but still one of my most favorite things ever. Text message. When you get a text message with a code in it.
Oh, yes.
When you have to do the
two-factor authentication when they send you a confirmation code. And it works with email and text.
Text message has been there for a while, and I think the thing that is fairly new is that it actually works with email as well now. So very, very cool.
There's also an option that as soon as you use that code, again, it will just be there in the toolbar at the top, from messages, use this code, or from mail, use this code. It will delete the email or the text message once you've used it. It's really cool, really useful.
This is the simple stuff that just makes things so much easier and more pleasurable to use, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It just saves a lot of, as a screen reader user, it just saves a lot of navigating around unnecessarily. If you miss that banner that pops up with the security code, or VoiceOver reads it slightly too fast or strangely, you got to go to Notification Center and find that code. Just the ability just to tap on I believe it's just above the Q key on the on-screen keyboard. Grab the security code from there. It's amazing.
Or the particular people that are sending you the code in an email decide to put a comma after it, and then when you try and go copy last phrase to clipboard and it includes the comma, and you don't know the comma's even there, and you paste it in and goes, this is not valid. Or it won't paste in because the field only accepts 6 digits and you tried to paste 7 in it, so it won't accept it at all.
Oh, life is terrible.
Gets rid of all those issues and just fills it for you. It's great.
Couldn't agree more.
One of the things that really annoyed me with the Apple Watch is, I don't know, sometimes when you're out and you're in a loud environment, it's really quite hard to hear it. And you'll be trying to do stuff with your watch, and you bring your watch up to your ear and you're trying to flick it with your other finger, so you turn it away from you and try and, flick around on the screen. But that action of turning away from you used to lock it by default. There is now an option within the VoiceOver settings for the watch to have it, whether or not it shuts, it turns off the screen when it faces away. So you can have that turned off now, so that when you turn away, when the watch turns away from you, it doesn't lock the screen. Really helpful.
Really helpful, but I hate looking like a squirrel when I'm doing that. Up to your ears and your other hand flicking on the watch. You feel like a T-Rex or something.
So another thing on that same sort of bandwagon that they've added into iOS 18 is, and look, I've got this turned off myself, but it's there. So loud environments, you can, I think it's in settings. So in the watch app, on the watch, go into settings and accessibility and VoiceOver and audio, I think, or speech, one of those two. You can set it so that when you're in a loud environment, it basically puts this bloody awful EQ on VoiceOver so that it's easier to hear in loud environments. It sounds awful fidelity-wise. It's just a really tinny sort of thing, but it makes it more audible in that sort of loud environment. It's supposed to listen to how loud your environment is and only do it when you are in a loud environment. It's a little bit too aggressive for my taste, so I've got to turn it back off again. But yeah, if you're having trouble hearing your watch, it might be something worth looking into.
Very cool. I did not know that. Thank you.
So much stuff in there. That's why, we've only sort of scratched the surface tonight.
Now that we've had our phones and our AirPods for a while, do we have any comments? I know, Sean, you've had access to a 16 now. Anything we want to say about the new hardware that came out now that we've had it and been using it for a while?
I would like to ask both of you who, I haven't seen a 16 phone of any kind, pro or not, how you found the photo or picture or whatever they call it, the new button that's not there on the older ones.
Oh, the camera app button?
Yeah, the camera app button. And have you assigned it to something else? Like I believe you can assign it to different things.
Well, currently it's magnifier and Instagram, I believe, are the
Yeah.
only options in the settings for the camera control
so
button.
magnifier.
Yeah, it's a limited number of it's not as open as the action button with a shortcut type thing. They've constrained it a little bit. I still have it set to camera.
Okay.
I haven't had a lot of success using the capacitance button to sort of adjust controls and change things. I found that a little wonky, and I'm not sure what they do. But then again, I don't take pictures that often, so.
Well, I'm still at the moment. I'm going for the 15 Pro Max over the iPhone at the moment, and I'll tell you for why. It's purely because of the LiDAR. Now, we mentioned the live recognition option in the rotor. and detection mode. It's interesting. I'm not entirely sure what options are available to you with or without LiDAR, and I'm going to do a comparison at some point. Because we have, for example, the furniture thing. I think that's only available if you have LiDAR. Same with people and door detection, I believe.
I remember in the beta when door detection, or maybe it was people detection, first came out, it worked without LiDAR, and at some point it stopped working if you didn't have LiDAR.
It's an important feature to know, because it could be the difference between paying that extra money for a Pro when actually, you don't need it. From what I've had a little play with it on a older phone, and the only options I had available were text. Point and speak, funnily enough, I believe was available. I thought that was a LiDAR only.
Well, that's not a distance thing, though.
No, I know. Text and scenes. So those were the only three things I had in the live recognition rotor.
Right.
And I thought, as you said, well, LiDAR is all about 3D mapping, and especially for distance. So, there is a door 6 feet away, 3 feet away, 2 feet away. Maybe you'd still get that option. There is a door, it's a swing door with a funny handle, or it's open, or whatever else it gives you.
I have no freaking idea how far away it is. It's up to you, mate.
take your chance. But I don't
take your
think
chances, fella.
like Kayaker says, I don't think that's true anymore. I think it just gets rid of that option. But we will definitely look into that for the next episode and get back and let people know.
Well, why don't you tell us? We clearly don't know, so send us email. G@theblind.ninja, or S or K@theblind.ninja.
I have simplified things based on feedback. You can just send it to SGK@theblindninja, and it'll get to all three of us.
Gosh, who
clever!
took the time to give us that feedback? Very good, SGK.
Can I just say before we go as well, just the context menu. So as I mentioned earlier, one finger, double tap and hold on an icon on an app. I'm liking the lock this app feature in iOS 18. Have you
add Face ID to it?
Add Face ID or Touch ID, I believe, or even PIN as well, I think. But whatever it is, it means that no one can open that app without their biometric or whatever it is, without passing the verification first. And that's so cool, because the amount of times I want to give my phone to someone, I was like, okay, I really don't want you going into my emails or my messages or my WhatsApp or whatever it is. And you can lock all that down. And I just think that's really useful.
Yeah, I can see that it would be.
I feel like you're judging me now, Garth, with that tone. Like, what are you hiding, you pervert? I'm not hiding anything. I'm just saying there's some things I like to keep to myself.
Yeah, fair enough too. I guess I'm not giving my phone to anyone.
So before we go as well, I mentioned I had a story about iOS 18.1 beta.
Oh, you did too. What was that?
Okay, so let's wrap up with this. I got this iPhone 15 Pro Max, right? Fresh, I thought. It was already running iOS 18.1. Now, I set it up, I restored it from my old phone, everything was fine, except I wasn't getting my notification banners popping up.
There was an issue with the previous beta. Yes.
Was there, Garth? Was there
iOS 18.1 beta, I think 5 or 6?
Yeah.
The notifications would just disappear straight away. Yep.
Yeah. Well, it's funny enough you mentioned that to me now. I thought I've gone through the settings. I went everywhere. And, I'd hear a notification come in. It would do the alert sound. VoiceOver would read the notification. But if you try and put focus on it, you just go up to the time or the battery or the first row of your apps. Could not put focus on it. So this is weird. So, of course, Apple support. By the way, download the support app from the App Store from Apple.
Okay.
So it's amazing. Apple support, spoke to someone. Okay, go to your notifications settings and make sure banners are turned on. Yep, they're all turned on. Okay. Let's reset all settings. Oh, I don't really want to.
No, I don't think so.
I don't really want to do that. I'm a VoiceOver user and I've got a lot of customizations in there. I don't really want to have to go through and do that again. Okay, then let's escalate this onto the next engineer. Okay. Anyway, engineer rings me back And we go through and go through. He says, okay, I'm going to take control of your phone. Perfect. Fantastic. And he looks through. He says, I can see the banners. They're there. So, what? I haven't got a notification through. What do you mean? I can see the banners. They're all there on your apps. I can see the numbers.
Oh, for goodness sake, you're not getting it at all, mate.
I'm saying that's badges, isn't it? That's not bad. Oh, yeah, you're right. Okay, so of course my confidence immediately goes right down. And
Plummets.
I said, is there any chance I can talk to like accessibility, someone who deals with accessibility? Yeah, of course. So then next guy comes on. Absolutely fantastic, by the way. Takes control. I say, I've gone through all this. The first guy made me uninstall my VPN, any third-party security. I didn't have any of that on anyway, apart from the VPN. Made me uninstall all that. Anyway, go through it all, check everything. He takes control of my screen and says, all right, get someone to send you a text. Someone sends me a text, says, yep, it's there. I say, okay, so...
That's fine.
It's fine. So all the settings are fine. And by this point, I've been on for a while, and I'm going, you know what? This is an absolute disgrace. That VoiceOver cannot grab focus on this. Can I report this as a bug? And then he said, you do realize you're running a beta, right? It's not really done the same way. You need to provide feedback. At that point, it's like,
yes.
I didn't know I was running a beta. I thought I was running 18.01.
No, you were running 18.1
I was running the beta. And immediately,
I think it was 5 maybe or 6.
I know. And I said, no, it's not beta, because I turned off the beta updates in the software updates. I've turned it off. It's not a beta. He said, if it's 18.1, he said, I'll take a look now. And of course it was the beta. And I immediately had to jump off my high horse. This is disgraceful. This is discrimination against the blind. This is a bug I want to report. Yeah, you're running a beta, idiot. Shut up about it. It's like a couple of glitches along the way, but Apple are great with their support. I mean, they didn't leave me. They didn't say, oh, I don't know, which I've had quite a few times. Oh, it's third party. It's this that's causing a problem. We can't help you. Apple support are great when it comes to stuff like that.
I probably haven't thought to actually call them when maybe I should have. But yeah, and we've said this before on the podcast too, but if you are running a beta and you come across an issue, report it.
Yeah.
There's one or two things that I'm meaning to report at the moment that I haven't got around to, so I'll sort of have to drink my own medicine. But yeah, get them reported.
It's the only way these things go next.
I'll tell you, actually, one thing that I reported that we haven't mentioned so far, and I got feedback from Apple saying, hey, can you go and check this now because we think we've fixed it, was customizing your lock screen. And that's another great thing that you can do under iOS 18. Change the default widgets on your lock screen, add additional widgets, get information like weather or whatever you like.
Get rid of the flashlight.
Get rid of the flashlight so you don't keep turning it on accidentally and your phone gets hot in your pocket, and VoiceOver occasionally will tell you that flashlight is on. Another thing that's customizable under settings, accessibility, VoiceOver,
something.
verbosity, I think. You can, and in verbosity is system notifications, and there you can tell it whether or not you want it to tell you that you've got the flashlight on when you're not meant to.
I think that's on by default, thankfully.
But yeah, so customizing your lock screen, give it a try. It is a little bit finicky, but I think it's another thing that's really worth doing.
SGK at theblind.ninja. Let us know.
Alrighty, guys. Thank you so much for listening. I hope we will speak to you again next month. Thanks for listening, guys. Night.
Thank you. Bye-bye. All right. Ready to stop?
Yep. 3, 2... We don't have to count in the stop, do we?
Are you going to give it the countdown to stop, please?
3, 2, 1, stop.
Recording.
I think.
I can't believe you started at 5.
That was the number
We
thou
didn't
shalt...
like it when I started at 4.
No, that's right. I want you to start at 3.
All right. God, number fascist. What's the matter with you? What's wrong with 5?
5 shall be the number thy
2
count.
seconds that I'm not going to get back in my life. I've got time for my brain to just wander off into Geordie land before, you get to the record.
Here he is. Okay, God. Sorry, Kaka. What?
Nothing.
Okay,
All right. All right,
On
Sean.
that note, I'll have another sip of port.
You made me look bad last time. Are you gonna
reckon we
motivate me? You're the leading guy, Sean. Come on. Let's hear.
Is Sean going to do the opening?
No,
this time?
he just needs to tell me to do the opening. I need his enthusiasm. It's morning here. I need his energy, his wit, his.
He needs.
yeah.
He's the
needs
pump
a
man.
spunk.
Let's quickly move on. Okay, Kaka, are you ready?
I am ready, Sean. I am ready.
Are you revved
told
up?
you.
You are.
I am
a
revved
god.
up.
You are a radio
I am.
DJ Supremo.
I am ready to go.
Oh,
You've got the voice of a gravelly angel. Are you ready? Oh, come on, pump it up.
it was going so well, and then he just sort of
Oh, God.
Yeah, I don't know. I've got a little bit of
Come
stage
on.
fright now. I'm getting a little.
got totally flaccid again.
Come on, sexy beast, let's do it.
Stay tuned. That's next.
Oh, glorious. I got a tingle.
Oh, I'm not as flaccid as I was. Yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ.